We compromise what we feel when we don't know what we feel, when we have muted our truth for so long that we have no idea anymore. We undervalue and understand the gift of change and the journey that it takes us on, where you put yourself aside, your needs aside, to help somebody feel better. And while that might sound noble, it's quite a trauma response, and it opens you up for an inauthentic version of yourself. It opens you up to swallowing your truth so often, and it opens you up to abuse, whether it's overt or covert. When you speak your truth, it doesn't have to be yours or their need. It's an and. You can have your need met and their need met. When does it become so selfish that I'm disregarding other people's needs and only holding on to my own? We never judge an oak tree for continuing to get bigger and wider and broader, but yet we judge ourselves for no longer fitting in the pot that we planted ourselves in. In the process of that expansion, there is risk and there is fear, because what's going to be on the other side? Who will still be with me? Look behind the corners that maybe others won't, and ask the questions of, is this for me? Is it not for me? What do I think about it? How would I like to go in my life at this moment? And how can I become a better version of myself?
Welcome back, everyone. This is Jill Collins here with another incredible guest, a friend of mine. I can't wait for you to meet her and to hear her story. Roya Mattis is an intuitive coach, not just any coach, but an intuitive coach. And this is what makes this so special, is that she marries the mind and the body, incorporating her spiritual gifts that she has. She's so divine and so incredible. She helps people break free of patterns that no longer serve them. So we're going to find out what that means. So I want to start by just thanking you for being here today, Roya, and let's get started.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here. For those of you that listen to Jill's podcast, Jill here is Jill over there, and our really this came because our private conversations were so invigorating and so easy. We're like, let's just have it on live or recorded. So thank you for having me. I love talking to you.
Well, thank you. I tell you, we've been trying to get together for some time, and you and I have had these calls, and we're always like, well, let's actually schedule one. And then we're like, oh, let's just have it. And then we catch up and we were like, oh, damn, we should have recorded that. So you're right. That's really what it is. It's like, that's how we start. So it's like, thank God we finally got together today. Really, I think the focus and what just blew me away about you, we just were kindred spirits since we met, and is just this, what you've gone through, how you've done it, and your desire to want to help women reconnect and to find things that are like, we're in this loop sometimes, and we feel like there's no other way. That, at our ages, a lot of times we feel like it's too late. Man, I messed up. I've already been divorced twice, or I lost that job, or, I just can't ever seem to get my finances right. And, I'm never going to change. And so we have these patterns, right? That we talk to ourselves and we think this is it's always going to be like. And I think you really inspired me. It's that, no, sister, it doesn't have to be that way. And so, as I always say, and I say this here, is I want people to always walk away with an aha moment and to say, I can do that. I didn't know that was possible. So let's dive in. I'd love to hear a little bit about what you do in a bit, but I'd love to hear your story too, and how you started and what really made you want to explore your gifts more and help others. What started for you that made you want to do that?
What started for me was a selfish journey for myself.
That's kind of how it started.
And it wasn't just selfish, it was desperation. Okay, so if any of your listening audience is thinking, I am trapped in my own life, I am constantly spinning with the same questions, I am bucking against myself constantly. And if you looked at my life, it would have been like this beautiful puzzle put before you. That's everyone on the outside goes, wow, what a life you've created. What success, what husband, you have the 2 children, you have the huge house, you have all this respect in business. And there was this missing piece. And I felt guilty about feeling like there was a missing piece. I felt undeserving to feel like I needed more. I felt like selfish. But there was something I couldn't even articulate my finger on, that there was just something not right. And I or like I need something to change, but I don't even know how to begin. And I feel badly about even thinking it. And so that's where you would have found me desperately spinning in 2015. So in 2015, I was met with a trifecta, and the trifecta was I came upon some things in the company that I'd represented for nearly 2 decades at that time that were heartbreaking for me. And that means for me, because I'm a very love and belonging person. So if something doesn't feel like I can get someone where I promised them to go, then I lose the motivation to do it. And so I felt like my promises could not be played out due to certain things that were happening at that time. And so there was that, and I was so loyal that it was like, well, how do I even, and I have so many people depending on my belief here. And the second piece was I calculated and realized that my mom was going to pass in 5 years based on the illness that she had, and trying to figure out how to maximize that knowing and how to deal with that knowing. And then the third piece was I had been asking for counseling in my marriage since 2008, and now it was 2015. And what once seemed like an obstacle was actually a gift to me. My former husband was like, no, we are not doing that. People that get counseling get divorced. I'm happy. Figure yourself out. Once you get happy, we're going to be good. And from the outside, we were very good cohabitators. I mean, we clicked in these ways we could live together pretty well. However, the void inside of me was getting stronger. And I was literally feeling like, if you could describe it, like I was living in a desert with just enough water to not die, but never enough to quench my thirst. And so
You were starving.
I was starving. Yeah. And so by divine, so let me pause here and say, we undervalue and understand the gift of change and the journey that it takes us on that is a part of what we're to raise our hand for. And that doesn't mean we make decisions to exit stage left on all kinds of things in our life. What it means is instead of resisting or shaming ourselves for changing, know that we're either changing or we're dying. And if you halt your own change, if you shame it, if you stuff it in a corner, then you're actually, in my opinion, reducing your soul's mission to the confines of your own container that you think was what it was supposed to be. But what if that cage that you created, likely before you even knew all of who you were, these distinctions and these parameters and these identities once kept you safe, and you needed them, especially as children and young adults. Like, these kept us safe. But there's a point. Usually it comes in the early 40s. Sometimes for some of us it comes earlier and some for later. Men are actually usually in their early 50s. Women are usually right about 39, 41. We wake up and we go, is this actually enough? And what kept us safe is now keeping us caged. And you begin to feel the weight of the cage because the expansion that is being called upon your soul is not being honored, and not for sometimes anything other than you don't know how the frick to start. And that's where I was found. That's where I was found in 2015.
Wow. I have a question about that because I'm thinking how many times have I've experienced that in some ways myself. And I know so many people I've talked to, clients that I've had that I've coached and friends, and it's this feeling that you feel trapped in a way. That's what I was saying is that it doesn't have to be that way. Like there's got to be I want people to have that moment and say, I can do that. I didn't know that was possible. And it's in this way, it's this feeling of, I love the way you just described that. You said that, we're in this, whatever we don't let go of. It's like the cage kept us safe when we were kids, and now or what kept us safe at that time is now a cage for us, as later in life. And I wonder if there's a way to. You also said something about resisting change. And the more we shame ourselves, which I think is one of the biggest ones, and we don't talk about that, is shaming ourselves, our self-talk, or where we think we're supposed to be, those expectations that we have of ourselves. And if they don't match up, and maybe we're comparing with other people or what we thought life was supposed to be like, those expectations, we think something's wrong. And then we cling so tightly to that cage, as we're calling it, to life as it is. Even if it's not right, we're going to hang on to it. It's like a battered child that they always say, someone who's been abused, or even a woman or a man, they'll go back to their abuser because it's all they know.
Yeah. The nervous system, that's where it comes to the body. When we're talking about working with the body, the nervous system has to feel settled. And that's where the subconscious lies. And, Tony Robbins talks about we'll never surpass our subconscious for very long. We'll always course correct to that identity. Well, that's your nervous system. And if you study energetics at all, like the Hawking scale, where they talk about everything has a vibration, right? You can feel emotion in your body. Well, that's an intensity, and that's a vibration that's happening. And so that vibration sends a signal, and you can only be met with like vibration. So you come with this space of, let's say, guilt and or even apathy, like I've just given up. But you want love and joy and peace, and you keep missing it. It's because your energetic vibration, your nervous system, once it actually meets that, can't identify with it. It's suddenly uncomfortable, and it course corrects. So this is why we do this deep work to rewire the nervous system, to create new routes and pathways to go, actually, this is not unsafe. This is where you're wanting to go cognitively, logically in the brain. But now our body, our nervous system, and sometimes even our DNA passings have to align with it. This is where it's tricky. This is why when people come to me, or I came to myself, and it's like an onion layer, right? It's like they might be working on the same thing for 20 and 30 years because they're trying to talk it through, because they're trying to meditate it alone. Meditation is great, by the way. But you do one thing only, you're actually not hitting the root of the nervous system. And why I get so juicy and excited about is like, let's stop treating the symptoms here. Like, okay, yeah, I have done amazing things by rewiring my subconscious with talking to my soul through my pupils of my eyes, and to change that energetic feeling because I tell my soul who it be. And yes, I've done amazing things with that. But when we work in the mind alone, journaling and you think of how we do everything in the masculine way, it's all in the mind there. And then we go and we do a physical exertion. Well, let's just run it out. Let's box it out. This is all masculine ways of dealing with things. And while that has its space and its purpose alone, it only goes so far. So the cognitive is the 5% no. This is the mind. I know it's like a glacier. I know this tip right here, right? Yeah. And then all this underbelly is the 95% don't know. We have to access that don't know. I was thinking of an example, Jill, and I should probably pause because that was a lot to be said.
No, I think it's great. I think that's something that we are learning about, and becoming more mainstream, where people are understanding more about the fact that we have that 5% prefrontal cortex, that's the operating system that we use all the time. And then there's all this undertow that's going on in their subconscious that we're not aware of. And and even though I love that analogy Tony uses about where the thermostat, we can set it to 70, and then it's like, okay, I'm going to be a 70, or I'm going to be a 70 degree, or I'm going to be a 70 degree, and all of a sudden it's like stuff starts happening and it gets really hot and things are going on, and you're like, I can't hang on. And then we just want to whip back up to 80 or whatever it was set at, our natural system, because all of that, you're not a 70%er. You can say I'm a 70 or a degree or a percenter. I'm a 70 degree or I'm a 70. You can say it so many times, but down here is going like, no, you ain't.
No, you're not.
No, you're not.
The first time I
bucked against that, it'll be painful. It'll be painful.
Oh gosh, the first time I bucked against that. First time I bucked against that for myself that hit a deep awareness was in 2016, actually. And I had a coach at that time, and I had a certain amount of income in my bank account, and it was the most amount that I'd ever thought I could have, right? And then so here I made it in my mind. So I have this much in savings, forget about whatever else is happening in the investment too, but this much in savings, I'm like, wow, that's awesome. And then I had not been in debt in years. My career was going great. And here we are, all of a sudden, my bank account is drained the frick out. And I'm like, oh my God, what happened? And it wasn't anything, one in particular thing where you could go, well, that big thing happened. So she pointed out to me, she's like, Roya, and this is what started the trail of becoming so, now I never realized it till this moment. This is where I got like really passionate about helping people break their patterns, because I had to break this one. And I watch entrepreneurs do it all the time. So she's like, listen, you're an achiever. An achiever has to achieve. So when you achieve to your max capacity, you can only pass it for so long until your nervous system has to course correct. So my identity was to have this amount of money. I hit my identity level. And then what happens? Now I've got to create a gap, a space to win again. So I can't win past my own identity. So I unconsciously sabotage, drain my freaking bank account. And then I got room to achieve. Oh no, but I deserve this much. Now I hit my deserve level. And then it roller coasters back. The same thing happens in the body. People lose weight. Oh, yay, but your identity was a size. I'm just going to pick a size 14 and you wanted to be a size 8. And so you went to a size 8, but it surpassed your identity. And now what happened? I gained all the weight again. I'm in a healthy relationship. Oh, why do I keep going back to the unhealthy ones? Because you got to change the subconscious identity to stick there. Now, this is the last like crazy piece. And the crazy piece is when I'm working with clients is like, sometimes, sister and men, it is not even in your gosh darn lifetime. You have no recollection. You're like, I'm great, a pretty good childhood, blah, 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 blah. This doesn't make sense. And that's when we have to tap into the energetics and look at the DNA passings, because they've even shown it with rats. Like rats, they're taking the rats, they're putting them in a maze. Let's imagine that we got this rat with a pomegranate seed. There's one with a pomegranate seed. And they put this rat in a pomegranate seed tank. And when these rats come upon the pomegranate seed, Jill, they shock them so bad that they either pass out or they die. Like so bad. It's terrible. Now, guess how many generations deep these rats come upon the pomegranate seed, never being shocked, never touched, squeal running away, pass out, and some even die upon seeing the seed. Guess how many generations deep that happened?
I have no idea.
7 generations deep. This is when they talk about generational addiction, generational brokenness, generational wealth, things like this. Like, we are doing stuff that we don't even know what, we don't even recognize that we're doing it, because how can we trace it back 7 generations? We cannot. Not in this. So then when these people come to me in these patterns they've been working on for 20, 30 years, they're like, I don't know. I've done all this stuff. We have to go into the DNA passing and we got to break it at the source. And that part I just said and witnessed in awe. It's like,
I have never heard that pomegranate story before. And that is probably the best example I've ever heard of generational trauma ever. Because I've sometimes a lot of people go, oh, that's kind of wooey. I don't know if that. And I've actually been one of those who's been like, I don't know. I mean, maybe, whatever. But that's pretty real. That's pretty solid. That's like, you got me going like, ooh, okay. All right. I can see it.
Why wouldn't we have DNA passings? It's all about survival.
DNA passing being like more physical, but you don't think about DNA. I haven't thought much about the fact, is it possible that our mindset passes through DNA, like changing, like how we behave? Say, oh, well, addiction, they'll say it's genetic, or because the DNA people are more apt to have addiction issues. And I'm thinking, well, is that chemical? You see, it's like still the physical body. I'm like, but I never thought like that other side of it is sort of a different point of view.
So again, what once kept them safe is now keeping them caged.
Wow. What once kept them safe is now keeping them caged,
killing them now.
So I think step one would probably be awareness, wouldn't it?
Step one is awareness. And that's why we always start with the cognitive, the mind. What is the challenge? Where is your block? Like, what are you hating to be bucking against, or what's slowing you down or making you small or frustrating you in your life? That's here, but that's just the start. Then you pause. The practitioner will pause you. Now we got to find where it lives.
Okay.
In the nervous system. You'll find the spots. And that's where the truth is. Why?
we're filled with rationale and programs here. And we want to talk our way through it and out of it. And we go, but actually, when you go here, you get out of the brain is just for keeping us safe from death and pain. Now I recognize a pain spot. Well, I'm going to get myself out of that feeling. So how am I going to rationalize or course correct or ignore it?
Huh.
Which is
Wow.
also why you can look at people's body patterns and see what kind of emotional stuffing they have. Did you know that?
No.
So if somebody is trying to release weight and they do everything, but they still hold fat in their belly or they hold fat on their hips or wherever it might be, when emotion is not released effectively, and especially in the feminine body for the women listening, it's more challenging. Why? Because especially in the US and other countries, they do a little bit of a better job actually. But US based people, we're so masculinely conditioned of how to deal or not deal with our emotions that we stuff it away. Remember, energy is neither created nor destroyed. So either that unmet with emotion has a vibration. It's either going to turn into a dysfunctional way of you being in the world, extra guarded, extra snappy, irritated, emotional, muted, a dysfunctional way of responding, or a disease. So a disease or dysfunction gets to come to you. So if you notice, there's a trend with women as we take on more of a masculine role. I raise my own hand to it. I love being the workforce. I love doing what I'm doing. I would never not want to do that. And I have to have an and. What I didn't know is I had to learn how to switch gears in my own engine. And so with that, you're looking now at statistics. Our heart diseases and heart attacks are so much higher than they've ever been for women, outpacing men tremendously. We have all of these autoimmune diseases, and and now their science is just biology is just starting to figure out like, oh, there are direct links to emotional trauma and the timing of autoimmune diseases. In my mother did not tell us that she had a baby at 19. And we found out months before she passed. She passed in September 2019 because her son looked for her. She was literally going to go to her grave, never telling us. In fact, I know that because we had hospice come the year before. We thought that was the end, and she hung on, and I believe she hung on to meet Brian.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
grateful for Brian. But now it answered a question. I'm going to tell you two distinct things from my mother. Number one, she always told me when I was 19 years old, I grew a goiter the size of a softball, and they had to take it out of my neck. What 19-year-old has a goiter? Well, if you study energy patterns, if you believe anything about energy deposit spaces, or you don't, this is just a sign of evidence. Like, how much did my mother have to swallow her truth and hide her truth as a young Catholic girl shipped away to an all-girls Catholic home, never to tell anyone she had a baby? And that swallowing turns into a mess. What's next? About a year after my mom had a traumatic emotional stuffing with her father removing in with us as little kids, I didn't know anything, but my mom grew up with an alcoholic father, and he moved in with us as children. He started drinking there, and my mom went through probably all the triggers and the traumas that she did as a child, now dealing with her adult alcoholic father, trying to protect her own children. Later as an adult, she told me how stressful that was. She and I in conversation traced it. 1 year after that traumatic event is when she got her autoimmune disease. And guess what kind of autoimmune disease it was? Non-A, non-B, non-C, non-specific autoimmune disease. Like, we don't know what the frick it is or where you got it. So then I began having conversations with other women. You have an autoimmune disease. Did anything traumatic happen approximately a year prior? And I'm telling you, Jill, 9 times out of 10, it's a yes.
Is fibromyalgia is autoimmune, right?
Yep.
My mother has that. Yeah. So that's something
Conversation, like about a year prior, did you have any traumatic event?
Wow.
So the body takes that also, and it can stuff it into a fat cell.
The fat cell is very cushiony. So what are we going to do with this stuff we don't know what to deal with. We don't know how to discard it. Let's tuck it in a little beautiful cell called fats. And now we keep depositing it there. So like, for example, I can meet a woman that had a lot of sexual trauma. Her body has to be in her mind, not always, but one of the reasons if you had some sexual trauma, you might carry extra weight, especially if you had it as a child. A child wishes they were bigger to fight off the offender. So then your body mass holds on to more weight as a defense to that offense again. But as an adult, you don't need that defense anymore, but your subconscious doesn't know the difference. So we have to rewire it and teach it. Now it's safe and you don't have to hold that fat anymore.
Wow. Well, I love this conversation. And I remember we talked about this before and privately is it too late for people? Someone says, I've had this for years. It's too late. Is it too late for people? Or is there
I'm going to give you a specific
everybody be turned around?
I'm going to give you a specific example and I'm going to use a fake name. Let's call her Susie. Susie and I were at an event and she was actually a second year in doing deep work, investing over $100,000 twice, 600 hours of immersion workshops. You and I are familiar with this.
Oh, yes. Which is not required in what we're talking about, by the way. This is not what we're, not what it takes to be healed.
And so as a matter of fact, so the point being is that she's in her second year investing like that, but she was so riddled with social anxiety. She had her back against the wall every time it was a group thing, or she would pretend she had a business call and left. She's very financially successful, but was riddled with this, had been going to therapy for 33 years to try to rid of the social anxiety and the other things that were, binding her. We tapped into her subconscious. Actually, we were doing a practice. And everyone you have beautiful gifts. Everyone has beautiful gifts. For whatever reason, I was chosen in that moment to be channeled. And literally, Jill, in that one session, and she'd been working for 33 years, she could not remember her childhood before the age of 12. In 145 minutes, she remembered her entire childhood. I'd actually never seen anything like it. Her eyes went like this. And she said she saw it shot like on a movie reel. And her eyes were like, it looked like it was like you're watching a horror movie or something and they're making that up in virtual reality or whatever. So anyway, her eyes did that, but she watched her whole movie of her life. And the reason that was important is because in that moment, her subconscious, her soul felt safe to remember because it felt like it was going to be held afterwards. Brain is never going to let you have too much pain or death. So if it thinks it's going to give pain or death, it's going to block it. So she got to space, felt safe in that moment, remembered it all. Now we knew why she had the social anxiety. It traced back to her childhood. That behavior kept her safe. So now she had this new identity of understanding. We were with 1,500 people. She starts high-fiving these 1,500 people. She had been to already, she's into like her 800th hour of in-person workshops, never touched a person. That night, we happened to have a dinner with 60 people at a huge long table. And she said to me after, she's like, I was challenging myself for you. She showed up on one end of the table and walked all the way down to the other end to sit where I was. And she slept through her night for the first time in her adult life. So no, it is never too late. And it can happen like that, or it can take a process. It's never too late.
I love that. Oh, that's so good. And as we're talking, I don't want to, I'd be remiss of saying that you do work with people, and it's not that program and it's not the thousands of hours and money. But you have a couple of things that you offer. I know people are going to ask this, so we're going to drop links in the bottom here in the description. And I know you're going to have things ongoing all the time. So definitely follow Roya on her social media, which we'll have here, as well as your information about your 12 or your 10-week program. that is right now on demand, but you are taking a waiting list for the next live or in-person, not in-person, but virtual 10-week. But you can also access it now. Or if you can't wait and you want to get it now, you have it on demand. You can get that from her. And then there's also something you offer, I think is so cool. You were telling me you were just in it before we started our interview here, is what you call a seeker's huddle. And it sounds like an amazing thing. I'd love to hear more about that. And then of course you have, which is really great. I always love this, is when I'm going to go in, I'm going all in. And I do love doing one-on-one. So you have a one-on-one private experience where someone can just work with you privately at your own pace. And I imagine it's just such a kind, as much as I've talked to you already, it's just such a kind and gentle and safe experience, just to feel so protected as you go through a journey like this. And so I really love that. So that's another opportunity. And we'll have those links there where you can schedule a call, a discovery call, to see if it's right for you with Roya. But tell us more about the Seekers Huddle too that you're doing. I think that is so interesting. It's another thing.
I love creating community where we get to talk and seek into the depths of our beings. And so it is literally created so I could have a circle of people to talk to about this, and also to hold space. So if you are it's made for the curious mind. So if you're a curious mind that wants to know what if and what else, and has a base premise that in my belief structure, we're here to expand our soul. Like, essentially, we raised our hands before we got here. You can believe whatever you want to, but in some kind of energy body, and went, okay, I'm coming into this 3 dimension to experience contrast. And in that contrast comes an opportunity for elevation. Most of us walk through the contrast, shaming it, blaming it, being mad at it, frustrated. And so instead of doing that, everything that happens in our life and everything that you feel like maybe I shouldn't have done becomes an observation. It becomes a witnessing. What is the gift within what has just happened? And how are you supposed to elevate your experience, your soul, your being from it? So it eliminates all judgment. It eliminates all, rules of what, aside of, the base rules of let's be kind people to each other and not try to intentionally harm someone, etc. But we're in this space and we huddle and we insert our experiences with one another. So once a month, I come with a teach that challenges the mind, the heart, the spirit, and maybe it's tactical techniques too. And then once a month, we do like a group coaching where I might be the leader of something, or someone else might have that expertise for something that's coming up. But this is a container of non-judgmental, loving people who are seeking to expand their experience on this earth to its fullest capacity and look behind the corners that maybe others won't, and ask the questions of, is this for me? Is it not for me? What do I think about it? How would I like to go in my life at this moment? And how can I become a better version of myself?
Yeah, how can I become a better version of myself? I see that where it's twice a month, and one is often
It's a month on Zoom, so people are everywhere.
Yeah, and it's an affordable option too. I know you're offering a special, which I think is great, and it'll be depends on when people are watching.
Coupon for the month of December, and that coupon, December 2023. If you're listening to this, that coupon is a lifetime coupon. So every month you will have 100 off for as long as you want to be in the huddle. And we have been just getting such beautiful revelations and experiences and connections with people. Yeah.
I think people need that, and so it's less than $100, I think, right now with that, and
97
to be part of a community. Yeah, $197. Okay, less than $200.
It's 97 with the coupon.
97. Yeah, so I mean, it's like
with the coupon, and there's no contract. You can stop it at any time.
I love that, because that's something I'm always saying. People are reaching out to me all the time. Like, well, I'm always talking about community, like find your tribe, find people that are going to lift you up, inspire you, challenge you to be more and do more to get where you want to be, and look for people that are you want to emulate, that are already where you want to, that are doing what you're wanting to do, and just change your social circles. Your parents always said, hang out with the good crowd. Find the good crowd that's good for good, or the right crowd for you that feels right. Yeah. And for that's just a heck of a value. And then, of course, working with you more deeply too. But, I can imagine, you talked a little bit about judgment, and I've been really studying this a lot lately, and I heard something that was said recently is that when we're judging others, we're really just judging ourselves. Is that
Yeah, that can be this can be very true.
Or we're judging ourselves, or we're living within the rules and regulations that we bought into once upon a time, and then everyone must live in that for us to feel like it's right or safe.
Mm.
Mm. Oh, look, it's giving a thumbs up. That thing
that
is
has been
laughing.
happening to me. I don't know what that's doing.
It's
I had balloons come up
sensor
one
you can
day, and I was like,
I
"What
love
is that?
it.
It's my finger, and it's doing that." I don't know.
I love it. I love it.
I wanted to, what's coming up for me is going back to that comment we were talking about with growth and change, and to give like a simple example for people listening. We never judge an oak tree for continuing to get bigger and wider and broader, but yet we judge ourselves for no longer fitting in the pot that we planted ourselves in. And in the process of that expansion, there is risk and there is fear, because what's going to be on the other side? Who will still be with me? Will I approve of myself? And is this the direction that I actually want to go? So, Jill, do we have time for me to share something that was downloaded in meditation to understand about
Yeah.
the gift and the purpose of change?
Yeah.
So, from what I hope this puts it in an easy language, because I will tell you as a backdrop, so oh, this girl loves change, it's easy. No, I mean, my life literally had an atomic bomb hit it in August of 2020. I found myself on a stained up carpet floor in a rented townhome I had not rented since college, and I had moved out of a 7,500 square foot pristine home, facing a divorce, the anniversary of my mother's death approaching the first year. We're in the middle of the pandemic, 2020, and an atomic bomb hits my business of a major betrayal, and my income wipes out in a third overnight. The box is still unopened. I remember crawling. I mean, like that punch in the gut, that last straw, that I don't even know if I love myself right now anymore or what's going on. Like, why? One more thing. And I'm crawling up the stairs, and my mattress was still on the floor. And I just did that kind of like grab the mattress, and I flopped onto the mattress, and I rolled on my back, and I had that kind of deep cry, that open mouth cry where no sound comes out because the pain is too great. I didn't know if I was going to survive past that moment. I questioned all the decisions I made. I questioned the leadership that I had created over 2 decades. And I wondered to myself, am I a fraud? And the next morning, 2 whispers came into my heart from human beings. So if you watch somebody in pain and struggling, sometimes all they need is your love and acceptance, and reminding them of the good pieces of themselves, even if there's a bunch of messy around it. And those 2 women poured belief into my soul in one conversation. And after that conversation, I made a distinction. You know what? From ash is fertile soil. From ash is fertile soil, and we can rise again. And about a year after that, this was downloaded. And change is like a life cycle. And so if you're wondering, how do I make a change? Where do I start? What if it blows up in my face? I've been watching other people and I don't recognize her anymore, and she's gone back crazy. She must be, or he or whatever. Here's what it looks like. The first stage of change is childhood, just like the beginning of your life. Childhood is filled with wide-eyed wonder. What else can be true here? Curiosity, no judgment, just observation. And so if you're stuck somewhere, you start with observing. Childlike, wide-eyed wonder. peeking behind corners, listening to things, reading things, having conversations you may have never had or given yourself permission for. And the next part is the one people try to avoid. And just like in life, after childhood comes adolescence. Adolescence is messy. You are awkward. You don't recognize yourself. Other people don't recognize you. You overdo it. You underdo it. I mean, adolescence can be a lot. And so we avoid change because of this messiness. But right on the other side of this messy adolescence is adulthood. And adulthood is now you're executing the things you were trying out in messy adolescence. And now you have more discernment of what is really more you. And you begin to have purposeful adulthood, executing, practicing effort into the thing, the new body, the new way you show up in relationship, the new level of money that you're making, the new circumstance you put into your life. And you are in that purposeful adulthood stage. And after that comes maturity. It is you. It's as if it always has been you. It takes no effort. It is your being. Maturity is being and essence. And then after maturity comes death. And just like anything, the plants that lose their leaf, the trees that lose their leaves in the fall, etc., there must be pruning. But most of us hold on in the life cycle. And we're holding on in this walking dead experience, the body that doesn't serve us, the relationship that doesn't serve us, the work that no longer aligns with us, the relationship that we have altered from, and we're not speaking your truth to maybe grow together. We're holding on to death, and death requires shedding. And so how do you begin to shed? Childlike, wide-eyed wonder. And why are you willing to go through messy adolescence? Because you're freaking alive, people. Because you're actually not amongst the comatose. And now give yourself the grace to know, oh my God, at least I'm alive. And you watch other people being messy, at least they're alive. And I hope this gives you permission to say, I'm willing to stop being dead inside. I'm willing to tap on the shoulders of myself and others and to begin to ask the questions I've once been afraid of. Because you know what? I am meant to evolve. I am meant to explore. I am meant to, in a purposeful way, begin to understand myself in places that no one else did. And I don't either until I begin the process. And now the richness, the life that I have today is a life that I'm like, yeah, I don't wake up like, oh, everything is pinging on all cylinders. I have this life, Jill, full of richness and authenticity and love of the present moment that I'm in. And if I don't love this moment tomorrow, I know what to do. And I hope just by listening to this, you do too.
Wow. I'm so glad you shared that. I love the stages you just went through. The childlike wonder is there's nothing wrong with that. I think Oprah says, when you don't know what to do nothing. And she doesn't probably literally mean nothing, but I would say that as like observation. It's that it's okay to sit still and just check it out for a bit. And the other thing you said was, sometimes when we're in that space of fear at adolescence, we're maybe considering, even, in a partnership. I know we were going to talk a little bit about unconscious uncoupling. We may not get a chance to do that today with divorce, but we can do another one about it too.
It's a whole other
because it's another topic, and it's such a beautiful thing you described to me of how you did that and how you walk through that. But is that it doesn't always have to be that way. I think sometimes like we watch the movies that Eat, Pray, Loves and all these types of things, and we think, like you said, if someone starts therapy, they're like, oh my God, it's over. It's like, no, it's can you find a new way to continue the journey together? So it doesn't have to be the bad news. And there's a difference between that and clinging and hanging on to something that isn't the cage. You don't have to necessarily have a cage, but maybe there's breaking free from the cage within that unit, within that container, within that space, that relationship.
Yes.
But it's not just throwing the baby out with the bathwater and saying, I'm out. You're not. It's like, can we figure out a way? And then the third thing I was thinking is, just about maturity and how we do things is like having it be in us so deeply as this is just who we are. And some people would say, it's just who I am. And I hear a lot of people in midlife saying, I just don't care what people think about me anymore. I just say what I want to say. Now there's that pendulum, and I've noticed this a lot, is sometimes we go from like people pleaser where we're always thinking, well, is everybody okay? Do I have to, am I going to say the right thing, do the right thing?
Everybody.
And it's like, oh, and then you go, I don't give a shit what anybody thinks about me anymore. And then you go the other pendulum all the other way, and you're like, wait a second, let's go from that. It's like, I'm done. And then the throat chakra opens. And it's like, I don't care. I'm speaking my truth, damn it. And it's like, okay, whoa, Nellie. And that's the adolescence trying to come in.
You're doing it in the best the adolescence. That's right.
It's like find the curb. Okay, what's that was too much
in some ways.
Yeah.
It's
hitting the curb, and it's like, okay, wait. And then as we start to go, okay, now I can actually speak my truth and say what I want. Oh, I was going to schedule a step that I think of when I'm thinking about this, and I've talked about this lately, is then as we're starting to discover that, and we're saying, I don't give a crap what anybody thinks, is then you say, okay, I'm going to speak my truth. But there's that stage of someone who's a recovering people pleaser is, oh, but I feel really bad because I said, I really don't want to go to that, or I don't really want to do that. And you're like, oh, but maybe I should, because, I don't know. Maybe I should have said, So then there's that guilt phase, right? And then I think maybe that's in between the I don't give a shit what people think anymore, but it's somewhere in there. We go in this whole like pendulum. And I love the way I'm going to stick with this. The adolescent thing is like, we're all over. It's like, what's enough? What's too much? What's not enough?
Yeah.
And then finally it's like at peace. And I'm going, okay, I'm going to speak my truth, and I'm really okay with it. And I'm not at the expense of anyone else. I can actually have
a way of invitation instead of aggression.
Yeah. And I can love others equally and still be okay with saying,
yes.
And loving myself enough that I'm okay with that and saying, you know what, I'm worth it. And I don't have to compromise how I feel to give someone what they need.
Well, I think oftentimes we even compromise what we feel when we don't know what we feel, when we have muted our truth for so long that we have no idea anymore. I work with some people that have been in a relationship for so long. They're like, I don't even know what my truth is to stand up for.
And I don't know what I want. I don't even know what I like. That's actually part of my program, my coaching.
That's part of the
you don't even know what you want.
Yeah, and that's part of that childlike why I wonder, well, let's open the door and look around and see. I came from, and I've been doing all this work since 2015, right? It's just not that long in the grand scheme of life, but before that, I couldn't smell the stink of my own onion. I was literally like, I don't know, people have stuff. I don't have stuff. I mean, I was like that clueless. And all this self-development stuff was like, how do you know yourself when you're with yourself all the damn time? You stupid idiots. I just don't know. I'm like so hungry for it. But, oh gosh, I just lost my train of thought with that. Gosh darn it.
We were talking about, I know. We were talking about the idea of once we're so confident, we know who we are, and we speak.
So then I figure out just a year and a half ago, that I had this fawning trauma behavior.
I learned what that word was recently.
I didn't even know what fawning was. So for those that are listening, there's fight, flight, freeze, trauma responses. And then there's one that's more recently discovered called fawning. And fawning is like, think about Bambi batting the doe eyes. You want to make your enemy your friend, essentially. So most people do this to some extent. You want to make somebody feel good that feels bad, that's sad, mad, angry, whatever it is. But you do it to as your default mechanism, where you put yourself aside, your needs aside, to help somebody feel better. And while that might sound noble, it's quite a trauma response, and it opens you up for an inauthentic version of yourself. It opens you up to swallowing your truth so often, and it opens you up to abuse, whether it's overt or covert. And so it's really important to have this self-awareness, and it all comes when your nervous system and your consciousness is ready for it.
I know. And it gets to the point once you're aware. Yeah. Once you're aware of what the fawning is, like people pleasing. And once I became aware of it, I said, I'm not like that, and then I said, oh shit, am I? And then it almost becomes like, again, there's that resentment a little bit. And it's like, no one's going to take advantage of me. And then it's like, wait a minute. And then it's like, no, you know what? Actually, I do love to give, and I do love to support people. And at the same time, it's just, I know my boundaries a little bit too now. And then being okay with it. And actually, when you start to, I should say, when I started to speak my truth more, meaning when I say speaking truth, by the way, everyone, it means when you're saying what you really mean and what you really want. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's just to be clear. Sometimes we use phrases, and it hit me, we needed to clarify that. But it's what is it I really mean? instead of, oh, that's okay. That's all right.
And
I didn't really want to go out tonight, but everybody did. So I guess I'll just go. Or, hey, do you mind if we just come over to your place and stay a few days? I don't really want him to do that, but all right. But see what that feeling we get is we're
great
stuffing.
example.
I get saying that just right now. I'm getting in my body. I'm feeling like, oh, I get smaller and smaller because I compromised something. Doing something I didn't want to do. And when that happens, we're basically betraying ourselves because we're betraying our soul. We're betraying who we are because we're saying, I'm going to give up something of myself.
Yeah.
I'm giving away something because I don't feel worthy of myself. I don't feel worthy, or I feel like I don't matter. If I don't do it, you're not going to love me. If I don't do it, you're not going to be there with me. You're going to judge me. And it's a lot of deep work, but it's really important. And I tell you, you get to this stage, I'm still growing. I mean, believe me, it's a, what's the word for it? They say is where it's dynamic. You could be, at the bottom one day and then I'm like going, oh, I feel great today. And tomorrow I'm like, oh my God, I just want to, it's
so
like
much what to do.
times.
Yeah. I
But
think part of it
feeling,
is using your truth. Yeah, I think part of it, the two of losing the truth or using your truth is, when do I do it? When does it become so selfish that I'm disregarding other people's needs and only holding on to my own? And I think that the distinction for those of you listening is that when you speak your truth, it doesn't have to be yours or their need. It's an and. So remember, there's an and in there. There's a bridge. You can have your need met and their need met. So what it could begin to invite is a more creative way to find a solution to have an and if necessary.
That's great. I love that. So it's really coming to terms. It's not that, well, I'm suddenly, now I'm speaking my truth, Bob or whoever's in the marriage, right? You're going like, and you're not, and I don't want to be with you anymore. It's like, no, wait a minute. This is probably a way to we can both get it met. He doesn't do it right. And it's like, I'm out.
What's being invited? Some of the things that I look back on that were troublesome to me with my former. So Noah and I are, we're not together anymore. We're actually in this great space of co-parenting and friendship, etc. Anyway, we'll talk about that conscious uncoupling later. But I used to resent some things and think, gosh, he's so blah, blah, blah. And then as I've gotten more space, I'm like, actually, I have blah, blah, blah too. And he was a mirror to something I wasn't liking within myself. And when you talked about earlier, like, am I just rejecting things in me? I was so close to it,
judging things,
and so annoyed by it. Like I didn't fully recognize that actually in different ways, I do the same thing.
Yeah, I was trying to find that. I was looking over here earlier and I was trying to find the book. It reminds me of Byron Katie, and I only have it in Spanish here. But Loving What Is another one. And then also I was looking for the Big Leap, which is Gay Hendricks talking about the upper limit problem. And that was the other one earlier. But it's that, those are really good. But yeah, it's like, it's how can we come to that conversation, and say, I know it's that thing about judgment is usually when we know, everybody, a lot of people get this now, I think, is this, when something grates on us, it's usually something that is unresolved in ourselves, or is something we wish we could do, or various things like that. So that whole thing about judging ourselves is, Byron Katie talks about it, is that when we're judging other people and we do a turnaround and we say, Bob's always talking too much. And then we realize, am I talking too much? Or
am I not listening because I'm wanting to talk and I'm talking in my head?
That could be too. And I'm not, nobody ever lets me talk. Well, am I inside not letting myself talk? Am I not listening to myself? No one listens to me. Am I listening? And and then the other part she says is, who would you be without that thought?
Ooh, a question.
Yeah, who would you be without that thought?
Ooh, that's a really juicy way of saying. An introspective question. I always talk about, more empowering questions get powerful answers. Pitiful questions get pitiful answers. So when asking something of self, take away the why. And when asking a child too, or a partner, like, why did you do that? What happens with why is defense goes up.
So even when you ask yourself why, it's like, what? What do you mean why? And there's an automatic, like, visceral response to the word why. It creates defense. It creates pushback. So it'll create pushback in your subconscious. It'll create pushback in your relationships. So if you just replace it with a what, a where, when, a how. So just like you were referencing, what would you be without that question?
What would you
And
be? What would you be?
also it can be a what within me allowed this to happen, for example, is another empowering question. And P.S., some of the ways to get to these answers that are deep questions is allowing free write, because the subconscious actually is a connection to the handwriting. And it's interesting. You can't type it, but the subconscious flows through that writing and stuff will end up on your paper that you're like, what? I was thinking that? I didn't even know I was thinking that. But you can't do it with pitiful questions. You have to do it with powerful, empowering questions.
Empowering questions.
Yeah, like a journal exercise, and we should probably end on this because we could just talk forever, but a journaling exercise, if you are a writer, you might write, what within me, blank, blank, blank. So let's say, what within me continues to self-sabotage when I start to make $100,000 a year. I'm just picking a number. And then you free write it. And once you're done free writing it until like everything is out, or let's say what within me is triggered by my significant other, etc. Or like for me, the first time I did it, what within me does not believe I should have a nanny? I knew I wanted a nanny. I believed in having a nanny. I taught thousands of people across the country because I'm also in another part of my life, a national sales director. I mentored thousands of women. I got to the 0.000.1% space in the world for that type of work. And I knew what it meant to delegate. And yet for 2 years, I could not find a nanny and it was driving me crazy, like crazy. And so my coach said, I think you're blocking it. So I started. What within me is blocking Zayden having a nanny? And so on the paper was the freaking answer. And I was like, what? Oh my gosh. I remember thinking that thought. I buried that thought and I buried that thought inside my subconscious to where I didn't even know it existed. I didn't even consciously believe it was true. But there it was in black and white, a fear I stuffed. And then you can't stop there. This is the critical piece. Whenever you decide to journal this, what within me, blank, 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 then you have to go through the fullness of it or you'll miss the gift. And then you go, this is a lie. So you write down, this is a lie. Here is the truth. This is a lie. Here is the truth. And now you write your new truth with your new reflection and your new framing of understanding. Because remember, it never is what happens to you. It's always the meaning you attach. It's never what happens. It's always the meaning you attach. So that exercise gets you to the fullness of the release. If you're not a writer, you can take the word of somebody like, I remember one time Noah had a challenge with his boss and he put his boss's name in the center and he's not a journalist. So he just put the name and he smattered all the angry words on the paper, just whatever word came. And you don't judge it because nobody ever has to see this journaling or this word smattering. And then he literally burnt it. You can rip it up, you can burn it, destroy it. And it was fascinating to me how the mind works. After that, he couldn't even remember half of the complaints that he had. Literally was like, he couldn't remember. It was a discard from the subconscious. You just gave it a place to go instead of, don't forget, don't forget, don't forget. Now okay, I'm putting this out into the universe. I'm just letting it go. And your body responds. It's fascinating. Oh, you're muted.
I think you're really breaking that pattern. And I think people this is going to be so valuable to so many people, men and women. And do you work with women and men both or just women mostly?
Absolutely. Everyone looks for upgrades. And so essentially I work with conscious humans that want to expand to their next best self. And it's a partnership. And for the private practice, the reason you have www.callwithroya.com is because I actually have to do a few tests to see if your nervous system is ready for this kind of breakthrough. We have to honor your journey. And so if your journey is not ready for that piece, it doesn't mean that you're not enough or that you'll never get there. It just means right now something else is next and we have to follow the path. So yes, the private practice and Seeker's Huddle is for both genders. And then my 10-week course, we can talk about next time with conscious uncoupling, or you can check it out on she-nest.com, is for women only. And what I
Okay.
needed when I was uncoupling or when I was trying to couple, there's no outcome. I want you to be in whatever relationship you are, if it's right for you. I just want you to do whatever's right for you. If you want to be single forever, whatever, we want a healthiest version of you.
That's so beautiful. Wow. Wow. Well, I am just so grateful. I'm so glad we had the time today to chat and to share this, your knowledge, your wisdom, your divine guidance as well. You definitely the intuitive and the spirit is moving and being able to share these things with everyone. So thank you so much, Roya, for being here. I know a lot of people are going to want to reach out to you. So please follow the links here that we have. Also, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And please watch more videos and let me know what you want to hear more of. We want to be able to bring you even more amazing content and speakers and guests here that you like. So tell me what you want to hear. And also, Roya's going to be available. She'll be able to answer questions here in the YouTube thing. So if you want to put some comments here, please do that and we'll respond. So definitely get back with us. Okay. All right. Roya, thanks again for being here. I appreciate you, sister.
Thank you, Jill. Bless you.
Thank you. And thanks, everyone. Stay connected. We'll see you next time.
Bye for now.